She lost her washing machine, dishwasher, and refrigerator. Yeah.
She wants to say, well, that's good. Yeah, why does she want to be?
I lost my stove in my apartment. The stove cost $600. By the time we had delivery, removal, a plumber for the line, and the installation, the thing came out to $1,500. People in New York don't bother saving money on their appliances. Standards old.
Just these math things teach you like.
Joe, how are you? Audrey, how are you doing?
I heard you told them, clients meltdown. Oh, God, several, everything's going. So.
You say it from make it mandatory that burning flag and 1 year prison sentence? No parole? Do you know what the legal way of disposing of a damaged flag is? Burning it.
It is 6 o'clock. I will call this August 25th meeting to order. Please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The floor is now open for public comment. If you'd like to make a comment, please rise, speak into the microphone and give your name and address. Thank you.
That's formal since the last time I was here. Lynn Maybust, 102 Pioneer Street. On July 22nd, an asylum seeker legally employed at the Otesaga Hotel was taken into ICE custody during a routine check-in with immigration in Albany. He is currently in detention in Louisiana. Our taxes, are now being used to keep him sitting idly in a detention center instead of contributing to our community. I learned of this situation from my friends and fellow Cooperstown residents, Carolyn and Boyd Richards. I've been following the national news about the aggressive detention and deportation of undocumented people and other immigrants with great dismay, and I'm especially disturbed at this incident in our own community. Our wonderful Cooperstown community cannot survive without immigrants. I participate with my husband in numerous recruiting events to bring healthcare professionals from around the world to our town. I work with the Village's Welcome Home event to make sure that newcomers feel accepted and supported here. I know that we have people from around the world working in the hospital and in restaurants, hotels, and other tourist venues through a variety of different work visa programs. On Thursday, August 21st, the Trump administration announced that it is reviewing more than 55 million people who have valid U.S. visas for any violations that could lead to deportation. It's clear that we're going to face more situations in which local people are caught up in this senseless cruelty and sent away from our community that wants and needs them. We need to be prepared. I've discussed this situation with many members of the Village Board, and I greatly appreciate efforts that many of you are making to respond to this individual case and to the situation in general. I understand that there is little the village government or any of us can do to prevent what the federal government is doing. However, I believe it is my responsibility to at least speak out and object to the detention and deportation of people who've done nothing wrong. I hope the board will find a way to join me in expressing our disapproval of the government's action and find a way to continue to be a diverse and welcoming community for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn.
Thank you, Lynn.
Is there anyone else?
I don't have anything written. My husband is the one that talks to Pedro.
Carolyn,
Oh.
could you just say Carolyn and your address? Thank you.
Carolyn Richards, 66 Susquehanna Avenue. Sorry. So my husband is the one that is in contact with Pedro. A little bit about him. We know him from driving him to church every Sunday for months. Doesn't matter if he had a late shift, he's always ready for us to pick him up. He's gracious, he's kind. I don't speak Spanish, so our communication is a little limited. We've had him over for dinner. When we went out of town and our son's dog was at our house, he house sat our house and the dog. And the dog was very happy. The house was immaculate. And when Boyd is talking to him on the phone, I can hardly be in the room because it just makes me want to cry. He's very hard worker. Also, Boyd is the one that drove him to Albany for his ICE check-in. Boyd was a little nervous. I was a little nervous. Pedro wasn't nervous because he hadn't done anything wrong. And we actually have his ICE check-in sheet. It says no wants, no warrants, no arrests, so clearly, you'd think there'd be something on that paper, and had his picture and his birthday, his A number, and then, the list of the no's. And so I really appreciate that the village is thinking of a resolution because it's really a problem. And this doesn't have to do with the village, but yesterday I called my 12-year-old grandson, asked him how school was. First thing he told us is, well, I used to have a Spanish teacher. The Spanish teacher was picked up by ICE and in North Carolina. So it's just kind of like, we kind of have to do something. It's hard to know what that something is. Okay.
Thank you, Carolyn. Would you like to ask? Wait, just a sec, Carolyn. Is there-
Or spoken to suspension?
Oh.
Did I understand that correctly?
Yeah, many times. We put money into an account so he can call. It's hard for him to get access to that phone. But he calls about, and sometimes he's gone to Buffalo, to McAllen, to Louisiana. So sometimes we didn't even know exactly where he was, but he calls about every couple of days. And we do have now a lawyer lined up in Louisiana. We haven't signed the contract yet, but yeah.
Carolyn?
Yeah.
It moves all of us. I don't know if you know, some of us have actually done a lot of work behind the scenes. to
Yeah,
work on that.
And I really, really appreciate that. I do know.
But the question I have for you is, has anybody asked Pedro what he wants this organization to do? And is he aware of the potential risks and potential benefits by us doing something using his name?
You want to come up and answer? Well, but Boyd's been very cautious in that not deciding for him how to go forward. But Pedro really feels if he returns to Ecuador, he will be shot and killed.
Oh, I actually,
And so he really wants to fight. I don't know that we have specifically talked about. You need to come, you talk, I don't speak Spanish.
please.
Yep, just,
Say your name.
yeah.
Say your name and address, Boyd.
Thank you, Boyd.
Boyd Richards, 66 Susquehanna. And again, I express my appreciation to you for your interest in not only Pedro, but for everybody that's going to be tied up and affected by this new environment that we live in. I do talk with Pedro fairly frequently. My Spanish is only so good. Fortunately, there are others that speak better Spanish, and he has conversations with them that I'm not privy to. The lawyer that we have is also speaks Spanish. I do know that we put to him the question, do you want to fight this? Do you want to be deported? And he said, again, because of the risk of his life, he wants to do all he can. When asked about going public with his story, he said, yes, that's great, no problem.
I'm going to get more specific on that one, dig down on it. We've specifically gone over the risks and benefits of being the poster child for this for a declaration.
Yeah.
And I bring it up and I'll just say, because
Appreciate that.
because I believe putting him on the tip of the sword to lead the charge makes ICE more likely
Yeah.
not to give up.
Yeah.
I don't see,
Yeah.
and I personally see a big downside risk of doing the Pedro Mialis declaration versus continuing to do what we do. And until it's clear that nothing else, there's absolutely nothing else, and I still don't think it'll work. I don't think we should do it.
Yeah. I certainly don't have the perspective or the experience to know, and I have not had that conversation specifically with Pedro, but we certainly can. My guess is he'd want to do not only what's best for him, but for the larger community, and how he could really understand that, I don't know, because it is so intangible, but I do appreciate that perspective.
Or even a general resolution would be
Yeah.
lovely. There's actually a second person going, well, he'll probably be deported because his papers actually say it's a deportation hearing, which was not on.
And I
Pedro's
believe there are at
paper.
least 2 other people in the
Yeah.
county who are in the same situation.
So,
Thank you all very much.
Thank you so much. We appreciate that. Public comment is still open. Is there anyone else who would like to speak?
Margie Denon, 8 Chestnut. I didn't prepare anything to say. I'm just standing here in support of the previous speakers. And I also did write a letter in support of the resolution. I wasn't aware of what you have been doing in the background. I would love to hear more about that. If that's something you have time for. The other thing, I don't know Pedro. My personal experience here in Cooperstown is that every day I see people on their way to work at the Otesaga. I see people working here and there around on farms and construction. We have people at the hospital. And this most recent Hall of Fame weekend, I wondered if ICE was going to come in and take people, take the players, take the visitors, take anybody. So that's what this has come to, that, I mean, if they're doing these things in Washington and LA and Chicago, anybody could be next. And I don't think that we protect ourselves by keeping our heads down. Although to your point, I understand we don't want to put somebody out there to make them the target. But if they can take apart the Smithsonian, what's to stop them from taking apart the Hall of Fame? Any Dominican player, any Japanese player, any Puerto Rican player, any Black player. I don't know all their names, but Jackie Robinson. I mean, are they gonna tear apart the Hall of Fame and take down all those people because we couldn't stand up for them? So that's my statement. I'm not very good at this.
Margie, you usually walk by my house, don't you?
Yes.
Why don't we talk sometime?
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak during public comment?
I just have to say, well, my name is Dave Denon, Margie's husband, 8 Chestnut. And if not us, then who? And not, if not Wayne. Do it. Do it. Good to change the subject.
Hey. Joan Perillo, Cooperstown, New York. We have an issue with the monument. There is no record of who owns it. So until we find out who owns it, the county isn't gonna.
You're referring to the Civil War money.
Yes. They're not going to. They have to be able to know that they own it before they're gonna proceed. So if anybody knows who owns it, please, so we can move on with it.
Joan, can you tell us who you spoke with at the county?
I go to the meetings. I went to the building meeting. I don't know the older man that said that, but obviously the monument is not on the register. But the county office building or the courthouse is, which is behind it. But I called the Parks and Recreation. And they have no listing of the monument being on the national registration, or whatever it's called. So I called the Fenimore House, and the girl spent 2 days on it, and she said, I can tell you everything about the monument, but who owns it? Somebody's got to know.
Cindy, I know this came up in Community and Environment Committee. Do you know if there was any response from the county?
So we met before the county meetings that you attended. And I think we can follow up with Alan Ruffles to find out further what transpired and who.
So
Alan is the treasurer for the county. He sits on the Community and Environment Committee. Yes, tall man.
older.
Yeah.
No.
I just know that, I mean, it was a good meeting. They're all for it.
Yeah.
But
But-
they said they can't they can't do anything if they don't own it, which I understand. It, even though it's on their property, doesn't mean they own it. I mean, somebody could have came along and said, hey, can we put this here? Sure, if you maintain it, put it there, you know?
As someone who does a lot of research in property records, it is my guess that there is no official record of ownership
Well, how can that be?
because it's a
It's a
monument.
monument, it's not a.
It's, yeah,
But we know.
it's not real
the
property.
But we know the village owns the 2 monuments on Pine Boulevard.
I don't know that we could prove that we own the monuments. We own the land on which the monuments sits. And there is a distinction to be made.
Well, if nobody wants to fess up to who owns it, I really think we need to work as a community, like I said before, that we all chip in on this. You are a historical community, and that monument is a disgrace. Did you go look at it?
Yep.
It's sad. You can see it from the road. It's a disgrace.
We're working on it.
I will-
Unfortunately,
yeah.
governments move very slowly, but I am happy to follow up with the county and find out
Oh, no,
more.
I'm gonna keep going to the meetings with
No,
them.
I know.
And, you know, they've told me to just come along. I mean, and they said if we have to, we'll just do so much 1 year. And then the next year do the rest. But
Better than I expected.
they really need to know that they own it before they're gonna get involved in it.
I think it's not a matter of owning, but being responsible.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
No, I'm just saying, that's.
one way or another,
Yeah.
somebody has
Yes, I'm
to.
saying, yeah.
And
yeah.
I think
It's
that
essentially the same
I think because it's in Cooperstown, that it should be a community project that everybody chips in. And I understand you don't have the money to just give them for something like that. I understand that. But we're a historical village, and that is a sore sight. I mean, people have got to, tourists, when they see that, gotta say something. Wow, that's a mess. I don't know if you've gone to look at it, any of you, but
We've all been there. We've
Oh,
all
good.
taken the trip. It certainly needs to work.
yes.
Whether we can engage government to be the lead on that work, or perhaps create a group that seeks funding, create a group that does some of the work itself. There are a lot of talented artisans in and about the area, and see if we can work along a different path perhaps, until a source of funding is found, or some entity takes responsibility. Okay, we'll take ownership of it and proceed.
We will pursue it, Joni, with the county and try and figure this out.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep working on trying to figure it out, but.
I suppose we could do a work day, get people together, go there to work. and
It
when
needs to be done
It needs to be
professionally.
Let me
repointed.
let me finish, please. And then when the county grounds people stop us, we say, tag, you're it.
I don't think they do that.
There's some stuff there that could probably be power wash.
I know.
The
No,
concern
It,
is
it needs a lot of, needs a lot
stuff
of
that
work.
might be damaged.
you cannot use a power washer on it.
Right.
Because it's limestone.
Right.
And if, the longer it stays the way it is, the water's gonna seep behind there and it's gonna get worse. And
We,
eventually it's gonna come down.
we are behind you on this one.
I understand, but I just want you to know what I'm being told and what I'm learning. Okay?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Public comment still open if anyone else chooses to make a comment. If not, I'm closing the public comment portion of the meeting. Closed. Correspondence, we have 10 emails in our packet. The first is from Ellen Simico regarding offensive flags on boats at village docks. There are 9 letters pertaining to Pedro's situation. An email from Kate O'Hanley, email from Georgia Smith, email from Beth and Ron Littell, email from Laura Curtis, email from Linda Spencer, email from Becca Brooks, email from Doris Mata, email from Vicky Wicker, email from Dave and Margie Denham. In addition, on our additional agenda items, we also have correspondence from Noreen Baldwin regarding concerns about village parks and lifeguards, and an email from Jean McNamara regarding a parking ticket received during Hall of Fame induction weekend. All those letters are in now the public record. We have no public hearings tonight. Review of minutes. I move that we approve the July 28th regular meeting minutes with corrections submitted.
Second.
Second by Cindy, all in favor?
Aye.
And I move we approve the joint meeting with the Village and Town of Otsego on August 13th, 2025. Those minutes with corrections submitted. Seconded by Joe, all in favor.
Aye.
Your agenda initially says no permits, but there is one permit application on your additional agenda. It is an application to use a village park from Kathy Raditz to use Lakefront Park from 9/9 to 9/12 to display flags for September 11th, and that the park fee be waived.
I'll make a motion to approve the use of public property for the display of American flags as a memorial to 9/11 as submitted.
Motion second by, I'm sorry, was that you, Richard?
Yeah.
Richard, all in favor?
Aye.
We have our zoning officials report in our packet. And the minutes of the HPARB and ZBA meetings have been shared digitally with all the board members. The planning board this month will meet tomorrow. We have in our zoning report the materials from our submission to Otsego County Planning Department relative to the development at 217 Main Street and the approval from the Otsego County Planning Department as attached. Are there any questions or comments on the zoning officials or anything?
May I ask Jean Berman, the chair of the planning board, a question? On your agenda for tomorrow is the rezoning, a recommendation concerning the rezoning of 15 Chestnut on your agenda. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Motion to accept the zoning enforcement officer report
So moved.
by Cindy, second by Audrey, all in favor?
Aye.
Moving on, public safety.
We've discussed in length how successful the handling of the induction weekend was here in the village. Sizable crowd, no notable incidents, terrific job by both police department, fire, EMS. No extraordinary incidents that we're aware of here in the village. Couple of things worthy of note. Our police do a lot of stuff. They do enforcement, but they also do a lot of community work here in the village. This reporting period, they had a little bit of a training exercise with the installation of car seats, which, believe it or not, is much more complicated than it once was. When you used to sit on the little thing that hung on the front seat. We have a couple of officers trained in that. They're out there and they do that, they do that on a regular basis. The other thing that goes on oftentimes is coffee with a cop. We tried to schedule or think about scheduling it this past month. Had a couple injuries, couple officers out due to, or one officer out due to his involvement with the service. And we don't have a date for that yet. In addition to that, and patrol and the like, officers also do patrol checks on a regular basis. And there's a house just around the corner from where I live, where it's kind of overgrown. They could make a regular checks there on a scheduled basis, just to make sure that the elderly resident there is okay. And they forward that information to social services. We have the new car is running. We're looking to retrofit the old Durango again, so that it'll have a battery pack that will allow it to sit without having to idle. And that's gonna be effective in a couple of areas. One, because we lessen wear and tear on the vehicle, but also certainly burning less gas and less. The other thing that's kind of notable is the chief has advised us that he's going to be stepping down. There's a plan in place to ensure that we have someone to fill in his shoes. He'll continue to work, but in the capacity as a police officer and as a chief. He really believes, and I endorse, and I believe the mayor's in sync, that the chief is more of a full-time job, and trying to do it part-time is just a bit overwhelming. So we're going to look to initiate that transition there. And other than that, it's actually a pretty quiet month, save a reduction weekend there. No notable criminal incidents or anything like that. No serious crashes. And one of the things I'm liking is that our newer officer has been doing a lot of traffic enforcement on the busier roads here in the village, which is really good to see. And he seems like he's going to be a very good fit here with the department. Any questions?
Public safety, fire, EMS.
28 calls for the fire department during the reporting period, including a mutual aid that brought us down to that significant fire down in Milford. Many of the calls we receive are still precipitated by false alarms that they go off, and that's something we should probably explore as to whether we can initiate some process to reduce the number of household false fire alarms. The department has a 30-year-old pumper truck, and this is a truck that stores water and can bring it to the scene. 30 years old, the standard for vehicle replacement fire departments is 30 years. So we're gonna see if we can initiate some movement towards getting that vehicle replaced. They have a generator on order. We're still waiting to see when that might be delivered. And the last thing, and again, it's kind of notable, and it's worth a little bit of recognition to the people that runs the EMS squad there, is they finished the refurbishing of the trailer, and it now serves as a mobile command post with radio multi-agency communication with other public safety agencies, which is really a pretty nifty task that they undertook and they completed. Induction weekend, 36 hours of standby coverage, and very light in terms of EMS activity. Had 1 transport from the parade and 2 from the induction. So other than that, no issues. And that's about it.
All right, any,
Can I add just a couple
Sure.
of things about the meeting? I was
Sure,
able to
absolutely.
attend, and it was only my second meeting, and I have to say it was very, very informative, and I asked a lot of questions. Hopefully it didn't annoy people, but it's very helpful. They're going to create an organization chart so we can better understand who does what. I thought that was helpful, and I think that they would like to, they have somewhat of a staffing shortage. I think they'd like to do some more recruitment, and some ideas were shared on how to do that, perhaps through the Village Voice, the newsletter, and some other ideas. And then there was a discussion about the financing for the rotation of new vehicles and how prices are increasing. And that perhaps we need to look at the budgeting for the replacement of vehicles.
right,
Are you aware of that?
for those of you who've only been through like one budget cycle, we have a DPW superintendent who has an entire list of every vehicle, every trailer, et cetera, owned under basically streets, water, and sewer. And there is a separate list that is all the fire equipment. So this was very apparent that this 1995 vehicle in a 30-year rotation is up for purchase. This is the reason we have this list and have a certain amount of funds in our reserve. We have a street equipment reserve fund, and we have a fire department equipment EMS reserve fund. Our process has been when we sit down to begin our next budget cycle work in probably February of next year, we'll be looking at that list, and that piece of equipment will be on there and be a portion of it budgeted and a portion coming from our reserve funds, which makes it very manageable.
I'd also like to just do a shout out. The clam bake dinner
Was
was
fabulous.
wonderful, and such a nice thing that fire EMS does for the community, so public safety. So it's really great.
No,
We're very lucky. We're very fortunate to have a great crew. So
we are very fortunate, and I think we support them well, but they support our community well. When I go to a state conference, so what the refrain is, all the volunteer squads, you know, they've lost them, they're folding, they're going to, purchased and contracts like the county ambulance service. We're very, very fortunate in the support that our community has given and that the volunteers provide. All right, a motion to,
I have one
okay.
question. The last paragraph of the report was the discussion with the chief about buses idling in the parking lot. And I didn't quite get the connection between using Cooperstown Co-works as a lounge for bus drivers so the buses can be shut off. I thought there was a 5-minute rule on idling.
There is.
So isn't that the answer? Or, I mean, it's nice to accommodate the drivers, but we don't do that under any other circumstance. So I guess I
I
didn't.
don't think that this would be a village action. I think
Yeah, it's a
would be-
private.
It would be a private action to provide a place for the bus drivers to go so they could comply with a village law.
But as far as our law enforcement is concerned, we can monitor the idling and.
Yeah.
And our police officers are empowered to have them turned off.
I believe so. I think they were concerned about overheating among staff. Drivers.
We have a no idling law.
We
in
do,
Cooper,
absolutely.
So,
We do,
you know,
absolutely.
I think they were trying to make sure the law is functioning, but also that the drivers had a place, you know. All right, so motion to approve the public safety report.
I'll move that.
Joe, second by Audrey, all in favor?
Marilyn, I returned to the CEO report for a second. I had made a note to myself that the report includes 3 items referring to heat pump installation. And I know we had a discussion about heat pumps while being a valuable advance for environmental protection and efficient heating. Their location and sound output can have an impact on neighboring properties. And so I don't know if we have a systematic approach.
That's
in
being
mind for
addressed.
that.
Yeah, it's being addressed. So in the past, heat pumps would not have come to HPARB. So HPARB is now addressing the siting portion of that. So that is relatively new. And at this point, all of the zoning chairs have had robust discussions and education sessions about how you are able to tell before installation how loud a heat pump will be. And we are working on potential legislation that could become part of the noise ordinance, but we want to get it right, and it's hard to get it right in a short period of time. So we've done a lot of education. We've looked at Seattle, we've looked at Portland, we looked at New York City and other places that have addressed this. But at this point, the siting is being addressed.
Thanks. I think that's important news for all of us.
Yeah.
Moving on, Hannah couldn't be here this evening for the Doubleday Advisory Committee report.
I just had, if you don't, mind, I had one observation about the report. There was a discussion of Doubleday Field advertising and promotions. And there was the rest of the narrative addressed promotional opportunities and how we can standardize that. But we don't have, I didn't see any discussion of criteria for Doubleday Field, other commercial advertising that we're going to contemplate that, and what criteria we might adopt. And that led me to think of the question of the potential for political ads and how that would impact the Doubleday Field experience. So
This is something that's been discussed at great length in the past, probably before you were on the board, and it is part of the permitting process for signage in the field.
okay.
So we have an application
For banner.
for banners.
Mhm.
And we have criteria.
Martin could tell you there are limited things that we can control, but yes, to the extent that we can limit the content of banners. In the past, we were talking specifically about things like cigarettes and alcohol and things we might not want to be part of the Doubleday Field environment. Those are addressed.
Gambling sites.
Mhm. Something that could certainly be reviewed again.
Thanks.
Why they do it in professional sports arenas now and stadiums.
Any other questions on Doubleday Field? Motion to accept the Doubleday Field Committee by George, second by Audrey, all in favor? Moving on to Streets Committee.
So the Streets Committee did not meet in July, which means August was packed full of activity in streets. And you'll see on your agenda a number of action items so that we can go through. And then if there are questions about the minutes, we can take those. Let me begin with Pioneer Alley and a little bit of background. The concern was expressed that Pioneer Alley is one way and it isn't well signed. There is agreement that it is not well signed. It turns out that Pioneer Alley, which is L-shaped, is one way on the portion that runs from the farmer's market to Pioneer Street by law. The law currently states that the portion that runs from Main Street to the farmer's market is two-way. So that's why it's not signed there as being one way. And in talking to users of the alley, they believe that having the ability to exit onto Main Street when, for instance, there is a delivery truck parked on the other part of the alley is important. So they are not really in favor of us legislating that as one way, although most people use it as an in, it being the part that goes from Main Street to the farmer's market. So it has taken some time since our meeting to work all of this out and talk to all of the stakeholders in it. But the suggestion at this point is to better sign the portion of the alley that runs between the farmer's market and Pioneer, and to maintain the status quo on the portion that runs from Main to the farmer's market.
That's interesting because I don't know if I've ever, particularly since the adjacent business has, put up a canopy and has food service, and those parking spaces were eliminated where that food service is now. That's interesting that it never kind of got changed, because I can't even imagine too many trucks going back out that way.
It's not trucks, it is cars.
Cars go out to Main Street.
Go out to Main when they can't use the other part of the alley because there's a propane delivery or a food delivery or something else that's taking place in the alley that blocks all traffic.
Well, signage, I think, is key.
Yes, it is. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we will work to improve the signage. So that was number one on your agenda. We thought we might be setting a public hearing related to that, but it would appear that that is not perhaps in everyone's best interest. The second is a formal resolution concerning the renaming of John Odell Way, the entrance to Ferry Spring Park. There is an error.
Thank you.
In the maybe we're not looking at the same error. There is an error in the second whereas clause involving the date of death, which should be 2023.
Okay, well, there's another error right on the agenda where it's John, but John O, Dell. It's just one word, Odell, Odell, no apostrophe.
Right, which is the way it's written in the resolution.
Okay.
Yeah. So with that, I would make a motion to approve this resolution. Do you know what number it would be, Jenna? Resolution number 2 of 2025, a resolution to name a street in honor of John Browning Odell Jr.
Motion made. I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstain.
Third item is to get a sense of the board. At our streets garage on Linden Avenue, we have a place where residents can bring their green waste. This is something that is very helpful to residents to be able to take their green waste on the weekends. And it is also helpful to our street crew because they don't have to pick up quite so much green waste from the curb. We are finding, however, that on Monday mornings, there is a tremendous amount of green waste, some of which undoubtedly comes from the village. I know I take my green waste over the weekend, and some of which may not come from the village. And so the question has been raised as to whether the village could install a camera, could be as simple as a trail camera, to see who is dumping and whether we are getting commercial users who are taking advantage of our largesse in terms of doing this, providing this ability to dump there, and whether or not that falls under our camera policy or whether because we're monitoring our own property that is not really public property,
street.
it is permissible to install a camera without amending that policy.
You know how I feel about catching, perpetrators in general, what are we gonna do with the information? What's the law regarding somebody dumping there?
Static services probably, if they're dumping without authority.
So there's a way to enforce it.
Criminal.
Oh, wow,
Oh,
cool.
yeah, and it very clearly is.
I understand that. I just
No,
didn't know if we had a mechanism of, what we were gonna enforce and how we were gonna ask them. Thank you, Jim.
I would be in favor of cameras, but I think it's also key that we say, dumping by commercial businesses or non-village residents not allowed. And
Mhm.
then,
Illegal.
cameras in use. I think it has to be signed well.
it is
something.
very clearly signed.
But cameras in use, it says on.
No,
that
it does
sign.
not.
So what I'm saying, all that needs to be on
Looking at it.
one sign to show that is our enforcement
Yep.
technique.
Yeah, and I appreciate the distinction you're drawing in terms of that lot being not a public way.
Yeah,
So, yeah, I'd be supportive of it.
okay.
Any other questions, comments? So we should basically make a motion to install a camera at the street's garage.
Yes, I will make a motion to install a camera at the street's garage to monitor the use of the green waste dumping area
With appropriate signage.
with appropriate signage.
I second that.
Second by Richard, all in favor?
All right. Next is a lot of paperwork in your packet related to the betterment lighting agreements that were approved at the Town of Otsego meeting on the 13th of August.
This is slightly separate from the materials, which was, of course, a joint agreement between the town of Otsego and the village of Cooperstown, documenting that we were willing to pay for all 20 lights that were going to be installed on the Route 28 corridor within this DOT project. What you received in your packet is the official documents. It was about 5 separate, and it's all in one for you, pertaining to both the betterment payment, etc. I know Joe had specific questions, and so that we could just move through this quickly,
Sure.
I contacted DOT so that we could just get our answers to many of your questions and move through it. Your first one was, and yes, they obviously have a bit of a form letter, and on the page, the first page, but the reverse side, so page 2, the town of Fallsburg was unfortunately left in when it should say in those 2 places, the village of Cooperstown. This is not a document we're signing. It was basically a cover letter. They're aware that they did it. It doesn't really affect anything. Your next comment,
I had one at the beginning of the very, I can't remember which paragraph, but the letter, just so we're all informed, the engineer's estimate of $89,251 and adds that additional funding may be required, for which will be.
Exactly.
So I think we just need to be.
Yep.
Yep. That is known, and there's further information on that in these documents. Going through it, we're in HC 140, also labeled 6/03. So the first, if you turn to this page, Appendix A1 supplemental Title 6 provisions. On the back side, they have no problem with us making a handwritten change on this. The very last line in the bold, the village of Cooperstown will cover the cost difference to add decorative lighting to match what is already present elsewhere in the village of Cooperstown. So those 2 words, elsewhere in, are added throughout, is deleted. The next page, your utility work, Joe was concerned that none of the boxes were checked. Actually, on a computerized form where you see like that black circle, those are checked. They did this. There's nothing for us to do on this page. You also had a question here about the resolution. They provided the resolution. It's your last pages there. Let's see. Article 6 of that agreement, village is misidentified as the city of Binghamton. And that is correct. And we will just, in the copy that is approved and for signature, that will be changed by Jenna. So you are looking at 6.1, Article 6, 6.1, where it gives all the information on DOT and on the municipality will be Village of Cooperstown. Number 5. We are now looking at Article 7 of that agreement, processing of betterment deposits and payments, specifically Section 7.2. They don't routinely put the amount there, but they were fine with us adding the words deposit equals 89,251, our payment there. So that will be added there. Article 7.5, there is nothing we need to check because we are not taking a loan or a letter of draft, etc. We are merely putting a little check mark, and under those first 2 lines of 7.5, we are saying from current 2025-26 Village of Cooperstown budget. And I believe the last one, Schedule A, you thought this was incorrect because you thought the local share was our betterment cost, but that is not the case. This pertains separately to other funding, and our cost is $0 in this case. We only have a cost because we opted for the betterment.
All right, that was my concern as well, was about Schedule A.
That is correct. We're getting a significant project without our having to pay for it. All right, with that and those kind of corrections and changes we've just reviewed, I would like a motion to approve this betterment payment request letter documents and authorize the mayor to sign the approval.
So
moved by Joe, second by Cindy, all in favor?
All right, next on the streets agenda is the trolley contract for 2025, which was emailed to you. It is over 80 pages long. It is our contract with the county. It is actually for the trolley season that will conclude on Labor Day weekend. We have looked at it before, and it is extremely lengthy, which is why I did not ask Jenna to print it out, but the county has now endorsed it. So I will make a motion that the Village of Cooperstown likewise authorize the mayor to sign the 2025.
Moved by Cindy, second by Audrey, all in favor?
Aye.
All right. And then concerning 217 Main Street, you may remember at our last meeting, Rob Holtzman came to our meeting to talk about private improvements on public property, and he presented us with a sketch plan of what those might look like. And I had asked to take them back to the Streets Committee for their consideration. So I have attached a memo that I sent to Rob. I had thought that the planning board was going to meet in advance of our meeting, so I wanted him to be aware of these, which is why it is addressed to Rob rather than the Board of Trustees, about things that were discussed at the street meeting and which this Board of Trustees might endorse and pass on to the planning board, which I believe is why Jean is here. The first concerned sidewalks. And we wanted to ensure at the Streets Committee that there are multiple connecting points. Main east of Grove Street appears to be well connected. Main west of Grove Street, particularly important if the red lot is being used for off-site parking. We wanted to make sure that ADA requirements are being met. That is shown on their sketch plan, but it wasn't clear whether that was something that was an improvement they intended or whether they intended the village to make that. So we wanted clarification on that. Grove Street, as we know, does not currently have sidewalks on either side. The village has received funding for a sidewalk on the west side as part of the New York Forward project. They are proposing a partial sidewalk on the east side, and we wanted to ensure that the two connect so that someone who is headed either north or south on Grove Street had a place to continue their sidewalk journey. So that is the portion of the memos about sidewalks. They had also proposed the addition of 6 new on-street public parking spaces, which you may remember in their plan were sort of carved out. And as we talked to the people who do our snow plowing, they were very concerned that going in at an angle, pushing snow, and then like having to back drag it out of as an angle was not something they were really interested in. They really need to be able to push the snow from those spaces right out onto Main Street where they can continue clearing it. So that is a change in the design of the plan that was presented to us. What they have proposed looks really nice on paper, but the practicality of clearing snow was a concern. Also, the practicality of snow storage. So we have, as a rule, tried to avoid having sidewalk that is right up against the street, because every time a snowplow goes by, that sidewalk gets covered with snow and someone has to clear it. So there is a strong suggestion from the Streets Committee to create a snow storage, a verge between the curb and the sidewalk where snow can be inadvertently deposited because we know it's going to happen. So some green space between the sidewalk and the edge of the parking spaces. Finally, there is a utility pole that sits in the middle of an island in Grove Street. At this point in time, there is not a current plan to relocate that pole by either the village or I believe the developer. But we do want to ensure that if in the future it becomes viable to move that pole, which has all sorts of transformers and everything in the world on it, that there is space on the development side of the road where it could be relocated, that the developer's plans do not preclude the relocating of that pole in the future.
That was the only one of your recommendations that was, I thought, interesting, that we would demand someone on their private property do it. And looking at that area and looking at it at Google Maps, I wondered, and currently there's a utility pole just, down from there there's a very narrow tree lawn. We can call it a tree lawn. There are no trees, but it's a narrow tree lawn. And there is a utility pole about halfway down on that building. So I was wondering why we couldn't also just bring one in on that tree lawn. And it appeared, I was told, that the tree was the reason. And that tree, you should realize, obviously, in this plan, is not on their development plans. So that potential, they're aware of this, but the likelihood is it would be in the public way, right of way, shall I say, on the tree lawn.
Or within the setback. I actually don't think this changes their plans at all, but if you see where they have their setback delineated on this map, there is the potential that a utility pole could be relocated within the setback as well as on the tree lawn, depending on NYSEG's preferences, which are not articulated at this point.
Right.
I don't think it changes their plan. We just wanted them to be aware that it was a possibility.
But I also want the board to be aware, there is a public tree lawn where there are existing utility poles
Yeah.
in that block.
Absolutely.
And so particularly with the tree, one of the reasons it would have had to go there is to get around a tree which will be removed in this project.
So we can certainly discuss any of these suggestions. You may have others that you want to add or clarify to this list. But we do, because the planning board is meeting tomorrow, we do need to either endorse these by the Board of Trustees or endorse them as amended by the Board of Trustees, so the planning board can work from them.
So do these become directives to the planning board or?
I see them as sort of recommendations and considerations, and I know that they have incorporated just about all of these into the plans that they will be showing tomorrow.
Okay.
So I'll make a motion to endorse these recommendations to the Village of Cooperstown Planning Board concerning private improvements on public property.
Second by Richard, all in favor?
Aye.
That it for streets?
Unless there are any questions related to the minutes, that is it for streets.
Motion to accept Streets Committee report?
Second.
Second by Richard, all in favor?
Aye.
Buildings Committee.
Buildings Committee, the report is here, couple of action items or just things I want to bring up. We talked about the Civil War Memorial. It does not, to me, appear to be owned in any way, shape, form by the village. Interestingly, we went to look at the monument. It seems to be dedicated by the Grand Army of the Republic, which was a Civil War veterans organization, which folded in 1954 with the death of the last Northern veteran of the Civil War. Yes, very interesting. It also seems that Stephen Clark may have been the major contributor to the building of that, but it was not owned by Clark or the Clark Foundations. So saying that, the question is, and we talked about this, we have to figure out who is responsible for that. And then we have to work with whoever that is to figure out where the financing is coming from. It may not be inappropriate to do a public-private private arrangement to get the money. It may not be inappropriate for the village to contribute some, but it is not primarily the village's responsibility. Okay, second thing. I move that we move, I make a motion that we move $20,000 from building reserves for the removal of asbestos flooring, subject to permissive referendum.
And the reason for 20 is to allow for the refinishing of the floor in addition to the removal of the asbestos.
Asbestos. Motion made, I'll second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Can we just, in the future, I realize you may have worded the motion like this, but committees cannot approve moving 15,000.
It's a
There's a
typo.
recommendation to the board.
That's what I mean. Made a motion to recommend. It's
I
what?
believe it's a typo in the minutes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
just
don't
so,
know. We didn't record the meeting, but
okay. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, thank you.
And last thing is, I recommend to the board that we move forward with a heating and cooling study for 22 Main Street. I believe the price was $6,500.
I'm going to recommend the higher of the two, and we can discuss that. It is by FS Engineering, and the reason is that it as defined gives us 3 alternatives, one of which is geothermal, and I would really like to be aware of even if the recommendation is against geothermal, of whether geothermal is a possibility for this building.
Okay.
And that's what we budgeted is 8,000.
Okay, so at 8,000. So moved.
So is the amount 7,009? What is the amount?
I believe it was a flat 8,000, but I will look.
Yeah, 7,964.
7,964. Can we make sure the motion says that?
I can ask, so there seems to be more in the scope which I think was useful of their initial review than the other contractor.
Yeah.
And it's things that we are concerned about. And the experience with historic buildings. And seeing knowledge and attentiveness to the idiosyncrasies of such buildings makes that contractor worthwhile.
I agree. You can see that we had an extended email exchange back and forth.
Okay, so the motion was made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Is that it for buildings?
I'm sorry, that's it for buildings.
I'm sorry?
That is it for buildings.
Motion
Everything
to,
else is in the report.
motion to accept Buildings Committee report by George, second by Audrey, all in favor?
Aye.
Moving on to Finance and Treasurer's report and our consent agenda.
Yes, I will move the consent agenda. I have a couple of highlights I wanted to point
All
out.
right, why don't you do that first?
Okay. The first is, our retirement program, our LoSAP portfolio value, interestingly enough to me, appreciated at almost $90,000 year to date. So things are, that's a great appreciation and value. My question was whether we should be conferring with our investment counselors about protecting that gain. I just, that seems to be quite a bubble. And I, maybe personally, people are experiencing appreciation financially in that regard as well, but that's a lot of money all at once. It's good news, but it caught my attention.
And it's totally within the purview of finance to have RBC, historically, I remember them coming at request to review the portfolio with us, particularly when we moved away from fossil fuels, et cetera. We looked at it pretty carefully. So I think that's something that finance could totally do and review.
Is it a minor matter, but we will be in the consent agenda is the LoSAP administration fee agreement, which entails a $100 increase, which I find quite acceptable after having remained static at 5,000 or almost 4,950, I guess it is, the prior 3 years. The other item, which is more good news, is our sales tax receipts for the entire fiscal year 24-25 was $478,000, and we had budgeted $400,000. So that's quite a substantial increase over what we had budgeted for. And with that, I would move the approval of the items on the consent agenda for finance and for finance.
And separately, you'll do personnel.
Right.
All right, a motion made, seconded by Audrey, all in favor?
Aye.
And I'll also move the approval of the personnel agenda items one, item one was for, and two were for, and three were for review, but we have conference request and employee status change report, and I move that we approve those reports as submitted.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That is it.
We also
Do we have something on our additional agenda?
No, it was, no, there wasn't any finance. We also should approve all the abstracts and transfers. So are
I
you,
thought that was part of.
oh, you did? I thought you were doing,
I meant to include all of finance.
you did. Okay, so there we go. All done.
Are we going to be going into executive session for
Yeah.
years? Because I want to discuss something on personnel when we get there, please.
Okay. We will have executive session. Moving on, grants and projects update. Welcome Home Cooperstown. Our next Welcome Home Cooperstown is September 2nd, Tuesday, the first Tuesday of the month from 5:30. And we're going back to 7 o'clock with the Lakefront concert series concluding. The September 2nd event will include remarks by Cooperstown Elementary School Principal Amy Malcuria and Cooperstown Junior Senior High School Principal Lori Lamondi. They will share information on the upcoming school year. And it will also, at the meet and greet, include an overview of the Cooperstown concert series by Randy Smith, along with general information about various Cooperstown area institutions. Local musician Sandy Ackerman will provide live music, and the Lions Club is providing the refreshments in September. So we thank all the Welcome Home Committee for all their incredible work with great programs and which have been very, very well attended. New York Forward. I know we're moving forward with our RFP and we're looking for a response in September to our RFP. I did receive notification, we probably at the beginning of July submitted all the documents that the village was required to submit. And I received an email on August 14th stating that the contract package appears complete based on my review, and my review is contract management specialist. And so it's being forwarded to the fiscal office to start the process of execution by the Department of State, the Attorney General, and the Office of the State Comptroller. I'll let you know if questions arise. That process takes approximately 2 months. So October 14th would be about the soonest we will potentially have a signed contract, but we're inching toward it, so all good. I did want to report on the Cooperstown I&I study. If you recall, this was an engineering planning grant looking at inflow and infiltration throughout the village in our septic lines. It was a $50,000 grant. 25 of that has now been reimbursed by Environmental Facilities Corp. When Delaware Engineering, who was the one contracted with this, submits the final, they have submitted a engineering report and there's some tweaking on it. And when that has occurred and the final engineering report is accepted, we'll submit for the remaining 25,000. Nothing really new to report on Round 9 Restore New York. We have our funding. The contractor Vicino is completed the application for their HCR 9% credits. They prefer to submit ahead of time on that. Willowbrook, is there anything to report?
Nothing new.
Project Ferry Spring, I reported on that last month where everything's in and the review process takes place with New York State Parks, and we should hear by late November, December. You have anything to report on Achieve and Bricks?
So I submitted the Doubleday Field project that we had previously submitted for other opportunities to Achieve. The Mohawk Valley Regional Economic Development Council is weighing through the many proposals that they got for the Achieve program, and they said they will be in touch. So we wait. I did not apply for Bricks.
Oh, you did not?
Because it turns out that BRICS stands for Building Recreational Infrastructure for Communities, Kids, and Seniors, with a strong emphasis on kids and seniors. And it was harder to weasel the Doubleday Field project into that particular request for applications. And I will admit too, I was also busy, and if I hadn't been so busy, maybe I would have tried to do it, but it did not seem like a good use of resources to try to make Doubleday Field about kids or seniors.
You could have, worked with a group, Kids and Cubs, which is, ball players, all of whom were over 75 years old.
I could have, but it seemed like it
Didn't you?
it seemed like there will probably be a lot of really worthwhile applications across the state of New York that fit better than what I could have made this fit. So my apologies for not updating you that I decided that that was not something that we should devote a lot of energy to.
I have heard that the requests, the submissions of these Achieve and Bricks are about 6 times the amount that has been allotted to Mohawk Valley. So
that
they
is
are,
true.
it's going to be kind of competitive, and there'll be an entire kind of ranking process in which those communities who provide more skin in the game financially will.
Which we did. We had a significant amount of skin in the
We
game.
do, because
And-
we had begun the
Yeah.
Doubleday Reserve to try.
And Achieve was about tourism, which fits
Yeah.
better.
I put the 90 plan on there just to keep it in everyone's radar because it doesn't come up every time. But just so you know, we have that federal grant, the Appalachian Regional Commission for $250,000, and the Department of State Local Waterfront Revitalization Plan grant of $671,274. So together, we're over 900,000 in grant to support that. And I see Pat Kennedy here, who's the former town of Otsego watershed committee representative. And she has been very instrumental, and we work together on all these ARC reports. And at this time, we'll be submitting the final request. This is a 50-50. But so we're getting 125,000. We're submitting the final requests for the last amount of that 125. But the beauty of that particular grant is we can match it with the funding that is covered by the local waterfront grant. So Pat has just done a great job helping facilitate all that. And all the reporting has gone in. There's a lot of reporting on the Department of State 9E plan. All right, so that's it for grants and projects, unless there's any questions. Moving on in board reports, Parks Board.
Yes, the park board met, and I think we have probably some work to do at the beginning of next season, perhaps to do some additional training for seasonal staff, because there hasn't always been continuity, and I think they're not always sure what they're supposed to be doing. So I think that's something we need to look at for next year. SUNY Oneonta has a great volunteer office, and they do Into the Streets. We talked about perhaps bringing some students in to help get the parks up and going and ready in the spring next year. I talked to Linda Drake in that office, and we can certainly submit and request to have some students come out. We just have to figure out when would be the best time. So we'll look for that. Susie Knight gave a great update on all the things they've been doing at the parks. Many, many thanks to Friends of Parks. And she had a lot of ideas of how to maybe recruit more lifeguards and make sure that we have everything open. And I know that people have been upset about some of the parks not being fully functioning, the way we'd like them to. So hopefully we can address that and avoid that next year. And then finally, the dog park, we'd like to hold an informational meeting. And we'd like to ask the Board of Trustees, I guess, to set that up. Is that something that the board does? To set up the information meeting?
By informational meeting, I wondered when I saw
Yes.
this term, what was meant, because often informational meeting is when the village presents a
Something.
project. And I wondered if this is more like an information gathering meeting.
That's
I didn't,
prob-
I
no,
didn't
you're
know what the
probably
intention
right.
was.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably more to discuss the ideas and the areas that they're looking at to potentially, you know, what are the things that we need in a dog park? I mean, I think there's great support for that, and certainly the board has made a motion, I think, a few meetings ago that we're in support of a dog park. It's just a matter of where and how it happens.
So it's like a public input session.
Yeah, that's probably a better way to phrase it.
Yeah, and I agree that it's more of that, and with our decision to proceed with the consideration of a dog park, we're past that stage. Now we have to have kind of a structured review of sites, of
Mhm.
criteria, cost, and it probably would end up in, getting some public input about that, and then we may have to appropriate some parks funds for consultant. With
So how would that meeting get scheduled? Is that something we work with Jenna to get the word out, or how does that usually happen?
So you see this as a parks board
Board.
kind of dog park meeting, but you want an open forum with
Correct.
people.
Right,
Yeah, I guess you would kind of come up with a date that sort of works and work with Jenna, and she would have to advertise.
Right.
And you know, do a public notice for that.
mm-hmm,
And it would be good if you had, you know, it didn't become kind of you know, it's a great idea. We all think
Right.
it's a great idea. If we start thinking of a location, and I know I've suggested,
oh,
you know, public property that we own, and we have 31.7 acres up at Ferry Spring, and there are, you know, there's an upper parking lot, there's a
Mhm.
potential there for development, and it would be great if, you know, some potential locations as well as
the criteria.
concept and everything were
Mhm.
included, so it's a little more fleshed out.
Yeah, I think it has to be a somewhat structured meeting, not just because we already have had a lot of input that people would like this and why. But I think in order to have a productive meeting, I think it would be good to have some more. I agree. And that's something we can maybe hash out in the next park board meeting.
Yeah, and the one unknown response or unreceived responses from the school and their
Yes.
property, and I think it would be good before we have that meeting that we at least have some response, some understanding, even if it's for further discussion. Because that's obviously a site that would meet a lot of criteria that leap to mind about pedestrian access.
Right.
Parking,
Have we heard anything from the school? Hmm.
Can I ask a question about that?
Yes, I'm sorry, no, Mr. Mayor.
Just because, yeah, when that came to the school board, we had several questions and those questions were supposed to be submitted back with a request for additional information so that we understood what the village was asking. That you did not receive that? Yeah, I followed with that at the school, and I would suggest that you not have a public hearing, or input session, I would suggest that. This has gone back and forth so many times, it's gonna just create community frustration if. once
If we
again,
have
the
another
community
meeting.
Say, hey, well,
Mhm.
fine. I think it's time for the village to hire a consultant to look at everything that's available and bring suggestions to the table that the board and the community could respond to. That's just my input, and thank you for
Mhm.
letting me to say that.
No, I think that's okay, and you certainly have more experience with this than I've had, having just joined the board a little over a year ago, or about a year. So, yes, I understand what you're saying, and I certainly wouldn't want to do anything that further frustrates people, because I know that this is something that's been discussed a long time. So I don't know what kind of money is available or what we would need to do to make it available to get a study.
So if there is parks funding available, unexpended parks funding available in this budget, given our further responsibilities through the fiscal year, can we find some to allocate to recruit
We didn't
firm?
budget
Right.
anything in our budget, so it would be a matter of looking at the budget and saying, okay, here's $5,000. Can we hire, you know, a engineer designer to kind of look at potential spaces? I know Jean, and when she was Parks Chair, looked at Badger Park with an engineer, and
Right.
you know, that had certain limitations. So some groundwork has been done.
Mhm.
But I think, you know, looking at that sort of thing. And it would have to be a contract, obviously approved by the full board.
Right.
But potentially if that was the ballpark, there could be some shifting of funds.
So you're saying $5,000 might be available? You know.
Well, I would start there
Yeah,
thinking
yeah.
about it, you know.
Well, and I think we have to come up with what do we want for $5,000? You know,
Right.
what is the study? I mean, basically, we're asking for some sort of study.
Right.
But it has to be clearly defined what we're asking for. So,
So, yeah, it's a chicken and egg discussion, really. The idea is a dog park, but what are the criteria for it? How do you counsel us as Cooperstown to set criteria? And there are gonna be infrastructure costs. I mean, we have a site that we've been discussing for a long time that's got everything there. It's got water, it's got parking, it's got lighting, it's got. And then there are other sites that'll have to be totally developed. And the costs are corresponding, so,
Right.
but I do, so. I'll ask, how do we, make an intelligent review of the parks budget to see if there is funding?
I think we sit down and kind of look and see what was spent. What you have to remember is, there is some commitment on parks that starts in the spring.
mhm.
So, and our budget runs to May 31st. So it's not like you could say, well, this wasn't spent. You need to allot that. So I think you need to look at your parks budget.
Yeah,
You know, that we get the fiscal report, you get it digitally every
Yep.
month that tells you exactly what has been taken from each line.
right.
What the funds would be. You can, you know, guesstimate what might be left in that line for May of next year when we open parks, that sort of thing. I would just kind of look at that.
Mhm.
And then put what you want for, I wouldn't say an RFP, but we're looking
Like a
for.
scope.
Yeah, a scope. You
Yeah.
need to say, we are looking at this. We'd love to have a space for a dog park that is, I know historically, when it has been brought up, there's not just one for big dogs, there's one for little dogs. And so what you envision on this, and obviously adjacent parking, lighting is you know, because even in Ferry Spring, you know, it closes at dusk. There's some lighting, but it's not like we keep operating till 10 o'clock at night. So, you know, it may be a day use
Yeah,
type scenario, but you know, all the kind of logistics, and I
Right.
might just once I've developed the scope.
Right.
and I guess you would try and get an estimate of what it would cost to have someone look at
right.
property, village owned property.
But there was some work done already.
There was a schematic plan, but
Right,
yeah.
right. But that was it. It was looking at one parcel or one area.
And it was done by a volunteer.
Oh, okay.
So there's certainly a merit to it, but it would be good to have a design professional
Yeah,
review.
I agree.
Your one criteria, you mentioned the mayor is the village-owned property, but should we be so limited in our investigation?
I don't know.
I think you certainly should look at it. You can certainly look at
Right.
anything you want.
Yeah.
But in doing that, we would be obviously putting that in the scope of work where these sites would be assessed as suitable for their suitability before we could get any access to use them. But I mean, I think we get a better picture of our alternatives with the scope of work that goes beyond
Mhm.
village holdings. I think, I don't know what others think.
I think there's an issue of property control. I mean,
Yeah.
it's,
Right.
I mean, the easiest thing is to look at village-owned property.
Right, but what
But
we did, we had property that we didn't own. That we're
Right.
now considering because we required an easement.
Right.
So there would obviously be an acquisition process if we found a suitable site that wasn't owned by the village that would be subject to an easement or, you know, purchase doesn't probably,
Mhm.
can't be feasible, but anyway, I think we ought to cast a wide.
A wider net. All right, well, this will be another topic of conversation at the next board.
Any
Parks
more
Board.
questions, comments on Parks Board? Motion to accept Parks Board report by Joe, second by George, all in favor?
Aye.
Community environment.
So we have been working on updates to the village website, particularly concerning sustainability, but in other areas as well. So I encourage you to take a look at the village website, and if you have comments or concerns, suggestions, images you think should be included because it is especially text heavy, yeah,
Mhm.
feel free to send them to me. The action item concerns our sister city lack of policy, shall we say. We currently have two sister cities, one that is in Canada, one more recently in Italy. We all saw a request from a resident of Cooperstown who suggested a third in Spain. The committee was not especially convinced that we should continue entering into numerous sister city relationships. So it suggested at this point declining that request, but it is certainly the board's decision as to whether that is the correct course of action.
Well, I think one per continent is kind of a good policy.
Yeah, that was
I don't want to get too continent heavy.
yeah, that was the
We'll just wait for the Antarctica one, right?
Yeah.
yes, that was the committee's suggestion, perhaps as a way to begin formulating a policy, is that we didn't need two European
Right.
sister cities. That's all I have.
Thank you. Good minutes. I know you.
Oh, I will say, so this was something new that I tried. These minutes were generated by AI with my editing. So yes, I did. I will say I did go back and significantly edit them, but the base was done by AI.
Can you describe what you did?
Yeah, so we, for this meeting, because people from EdFed join us, we do it by Zoom. And Zoom has an AI minute taker. And so we use that as our starting point.
And then does that do the editing for you, or do you have to put that through a different platform?
No, I pasted it in a Word document and I manually
The
edited
Zoom
it.
is the one that edits it for you.
No.
Zoom dictates it.
Zoom dictates it. And then I made it into something that was more minutes like it. I will say, just in case you're interested, when you have Zoom do a meeting, it starts off with an executive summary and it also includes action items that it has picked up throughout the meeting. I eliminated that because that's not the format that our minutes take, but it is interesting to see how what Zoom thought happened during the meeting and what the action items were that I did write those down because they were generally correct.
I
So
wonder if Teams does that.
I don't know.
The university uses Teams, not Zoom.
No, it is not a word for word transcription. It is minutes. The summary of the meeting.
Wow.
It misspelled Francisco's name though twice.
Oh, did it? Thank you. I will correct that.
I thought, well, that's good. It means they're not looking at her name on the Zoom and, it was just what it
Okay,
heard.
I will correct that. Thank you.
Okay, motion to accept.
I just had one last question on the EV charger.
Mhm.
Can you, you and I spoke privately, that can you give us an update on its
Yeah.
the service?
I think we've all been somewhat disappointed in the process because we have been led to believe early July we would have 4 operational EV chargers. There seems to have been a bit of a failure to communicate between several of the parties. And part of the delay, you recall, is our property is an island. Fowler Way parking lot is an island. You have to access it from somewhere. And let's just say easements weren't forthcoming from at least 2 sides. So one organization was willing to allow the necessary electrical installation buried underground wire to the electric equipment, the big transformer units and all you see there. So that was accomplished. On ChargePort Point's side, they didn't record that easement with the county as quickly as they should have. And NICEAG, you can totally understand as a public utility, they are not gonna do anything until that is a recorded easement. They would be out of it. So that was one significant delay. There were other little minor ones, but it does appear, hopefully, I would say in the next few weeks, we will be. But then once everything's installed, then there's got to be these reviews and certifications. It's not real simple, but we will have 4 fast chargers there shortly.
Our problem was we didn't pin them down on the July of which year.
Oh, they were very clear when they told us July of which year, but.
Yeah, they were. All right, so did we accept the community environment minutes?
I don't think so.
Okay, motion made by
Uh,
Audrey, second by George, all in favor. Water and Sewer Board.
Just one action item, we have the report there for your review. We did have a request from this property owner of 133 Chestnut Street for a reduction in the water and sewer quarterly bill from May of this year. And after review by the Water and Sewer Board, the motion was made to reduce the sewer portion of the bill for 133 Chestnut by the 3-year average of that quarter. And that's our recommendation for this board to approve.
2 to 3 average of that quarter.
No, not to
Reduce it to the level of the 3-month.
correct.
Year. Yeah.
Motion made by Joe, seconded by Audrey, all in favor.
Aye.
And that
We do have one action item there. You may recall that we accepted the resignation of our chief wastewater treatment plant operator several months ago, and we advertised for the position, et cetera. But we did not make it official that he could use his kind of vacation time and sick time in the period between the birth of his child. We don't give paid paternity leave until he officially ends, which is like October 15th. So is there a motion to allow him to use?
So moved.
By Cindy, second by Audrey, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion to approve, accept water and sewer board. By Joe, second by George, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
You have in your committee the watershed supervisory committee minutes. I should note that there was discussion today in the village office, and as you know, all our zoning meetings are recorded and streamed to YouTube. And we're going to look at doing that as well for the watershed committee, because they are covering some very good stuff that it's much easier to turn it on, the YouTube channel, and stay informed. And we feel that is important to try and do. Upcoming meetings, we have breakfast with the board on Monday, September 22nd from 8 to 9. And our Board of Trustee meeting will be Monday, September 22nd at 6 p.m. This time we will, I'll entertain a motion to go into executive session to discuss potential litigation.
So moved.
All right, all in
Can we
favor?
add work history of a particular individual to that?
It's not I guess we could just say a particular individual,
Well, I actually want to talk about the police.
a particular,
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a question about something.
okay.
So do you want to make the motion, since you'll be sending them up with permission?
I move that the board of trustees. I move the Board of Trustees adopt resolution number 3 on the federal government's immigrant.
2025, right?
Resolution number 3 of 2025 on the federal government's immigrant seizure, detention, and deportation policies.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Meeting adjourned?